The night I almost lost my job became the night that quietly changed my life, though I didn't know it at the time. It started with a single phone call, my name lighting up her screen while rain streaked down the windows of a restaurant I wasn't supposed to be anywhere near. My boss was sitting across from a man who laughed too loudly, spoke too proudly, and made her shoulders tense in a way I had seen only once before, on the day she fired someone who crossed a line. I was there by accident, or maybe by fate, watching a moment unfold that would force me to choose between staying invisible or stepping forward, knowing either choice would cost me something. Before the story goes any further, take a second. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet moments that change lives, please like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who loves meaningful stories, and subscribe to the channel, The Kindness Chronicles. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that need them. I had always admired her from a distance, not in the shallow way people talk about office crushes, but in the way you respect someone who carries invisible weight with grace. She was sharp, disciplined, and fair, but beneath that was a softness she rarely let show. I had seen it in the way she stayed late to help struggling employees, in how she remembered birthdays no one else did, and in the tired smile she wore when she thought no one was looking. To me, she represented everything steady in a world that felt constantly uncertain. That evening, I was only supposed to pick up takeout after a long shift. The restaurant was crowded, warm, and loud, filled with half-finished conversations and clinking glasses. I noticed her immediately, not because I was looking for her, but because her energy felt wrong. She sat stiffly, nodding politely, her eyes darting toward the door far more than toward the man across from her. He leaned in too close, dominating the space. Oblivious to the discomfort he was causing. I told myself it was none of my business. She was my boss. Her personal life was her own. But my chest tightened with the familiar ache of watching someone endure something they shouldn't have to. The struggle inside me was quiet but fierce. If I intervened, I could embarrass her, or worse, offend her. If I stayed silent, I would walk away knowing I had the power to help and chose not to. I stood there longer than necessary, pretending to check my phone, my takeout bag growing cold in my hand. That was when our eyes met. Just for a second. But in that second, something passed between us, recognition, relief, and a silent question. That was all it took. I didn't create a scene. I didn't raise my voice or act like a hero. I simply walked over with the calm confidence of someone who belonged there, speaking as though there was an urgent work issue that needed her attention immediately. I could feel my heart pounding, my pulse loud in my ears, but I kept my expression neutral, professional, safe. She stood up almost instantly, gratitude flickering across her face before she masked it with composure. We walked out together, the cool night air hitting us like freedom. Outside, under the yellow glow of the streetlights, the weight seemed to leave her shoulders. She laughed, softly at first, then with genuine relief, the sound carrying something raw and honest. It struck me then how lonely strength can be, how even the most capable people sometimes need saving, not because they are weak, but because they are human. That night, we talked longer than we should have, about small things and then deeper ones, about expectations, disappointments, and the strange paths that bring people together. Over the following weeks, everything felt different and yet exactly the same. At work, she was still my boss, focused, professional, composed. But there was an unspoken understanding between us, a shared secret that lived in glances and quiet smiles. I struggled more than I expected. Part of me wanted to keep my distance, to protect both of us from complications. Another part of me felt drawn to her in a way that was no longer just admiration. It was warmth, curiosity, and something dangerously close to hope. Life, however, doesn't rush these moments. It tests them. Work became more demanding. Stress levels rose. She seemed tired again, carrying more than she let on. I watched her retreat behind her professional walls, and I questioned whether that night meant as much to her as it did to me. Doubt crept in, whispering that I had misread everything, that I was just an employee who happened to be in the right place at the right time. Then came the moment I never expected. It wasn't dramatic. There were no grand gestures or perfect timing. It was a quiet evening after a long day, the office mostly empty, the city lights visible through the windows. We stood there, talking about work, about life, about nothing important at all. And then the air shifted. Her voice softened, her posture relaxed, and she asked the question that would stay with me forever, the one about whether I could ever see her not as my boss, but as someone who wanted a chance at something real. What I felt in that moment wasn't triumph or excitement. It was fear, mixed with gratitude, mixed with a deep sense of respect. I realized how rare it is for someone to be that honest, that vulnerable, especially someone who spends their life in control. The challenges didn't disappear after that. We had boundaries to navigate, expectations to manage, and fears to face. But what changed was the direction. Instead of walking separate paths, unsure and silent, we chose to walk carefully, thoughtfully, together. The story isn't about romance alone. It's about showing up when it's uncomfortable. It's about choosing kindness when it would be easier to look away. It's about understanding that sometimes, saving someone doesn't mean dramatic rescues, it means quiet courage in ordinary moments. That night in the restaurant didn't just save her from a terrible date. It saved both of us from the lives we would have continued living if we hadn't taken that small, brave step. As time passed, we grew, not just closer, but better. More honest. More patient. More aware of how fragile and precious connection can be. And every time I think back to that rainy night, I'm reminded that the smallest decisions often carry the biggest consequences. If this story touched your heart, if it made you feel something real or reminded you of a moment when kindness changed everything, please take a moment now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to The Kindness Chronicles. Your engagement keeps these stories alive. Before you go, I have one special request. Please comment a single line below about a moment when you chose kindness, or when someone showed up for you unexpectedly. Your words might be the encouragement someone else is searching for.